All right, folks. Good morning, good morning, good morning. What it do, what it do. It's your boy, SportsRap D in the building. The intro's in the background. You can kind of hear it if you can. Getting ready to be go time. I'm in the building. Got a lot to get to today, so sit tight. We getting ready to come. Malik, Cuzzo, what's going on? Glad you are tuned in, good brother. So listen, folks. We here. It is your boy, SportsRap D. First thing in the morning, Monday morning, kicking off your week. So, Mel, thanks for tuning in as well. So listen, folks, again, like I said, it's your boy, SportsRap D, in the building. And thank you to everyone that tunes in each and every week. Thank you to the people that are tuned in already. Some of the other people are showing me that 4 people are tuned in, but I only see the 2. So, like I say, like I always say each and every Monday, folks, when you are tuned in, please give me a shout out, wave at me, shoot a comment to me just to say, hey, good morning or something. Let me know you're in, and you will get acknowledged on there. Also, folks, just most recently we got back to it, like I've been telling you guys the last couple of weeks, that there are some things that I wanted to get back to that I had gotten away from as far as doing things and incorporating things into the show. So we are back with the call-in line. As you see when I posted this write-up, the call-in number to get involved and get into this dialogue and this conversation and into this program, 215-287-1672. I'll probably give that a couple more times throughout the show. So you know what it is. It's Monday morning. But first thing I need to do this Monday is I'm going to take my hat off to do this, and we're going to do this absolutely correctly. As you all know, I posted and we got the news of the passing of NBA great Paul Silas. So what I want to do to start today's show off is I want to just take a moment of silence in respect and honor of Paul Silas. Thank you, everyone, for joining in and participating in that moment of silence for Paul Silas. So now I'm going to get back. You see me, I'm putting my gear back on. You see the Eagles hat. We are definitely going to talk some Eagles. We are also going to talk some Sixers. I was actually at the Sixers game last night, so we're going to talk about that, the historic moment that was set by Mr. Joel Embiid last night. So again, like I said, we're going to get to that. As always, you know we always get to a lot of stuff. So we won't get right into it. Got some news and some updates. Just some stuff, to keep you up to date on what's going on in the sports world, as I always do. Reports are out that the Warriors' Anthony Lamb has been accused of sexual assault. Soccer writer Grant Wall, unfortunately and suddenly dies at a World Cup match. Saints the Saints team, coaches, and the player were fined in a total over $500,000 by the NFL for a fake injury report. Deebo Samuels injures his ankle in the win yesterday. It looked kind of scary because he was carted off, but later reports have showed that it could possibly, or they're believing that it is a high ankle sprain. And we know that injury, that high ankle sprain, the timetable for that healing is up and down, and it can also be a lingering injury. And for a player as dynamic as Deebo Samuel is, it's a tough injury to sustain right now at this point in his career. Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson was taken off the field and is in concussion protocol in that loss yesterday. Sean Payton is reportedly interested in coaching the Chargers or the Rams. And Reed Blankenship, who was injured yesterday for the Eagles, has a low-grade knee sprain. He's going to miss possibly a couple of weeks. No reports that I have seen as of yet on punter Aaron Sipos. But once I get any reports, any news on that, you know what I will do. I will give it all to you as well as doing what I do. Now, second thing I want to get to before I get into my scores and updates, and I gave you this announcement. I'm pretty sure I posted it, but I will post this information again later today once I go off air. But I'm going to announce it today, and I'll probably announce it again before I close out today's show. Good friend of mine, you know him, very good friend of mine, friend of the station, friend of the show, Mr. Joe Richmond, ambassador of basketball for your Delaware Blue Coats. Okay, family finest first. See, I'm getting it all because I'm a little excited. Family Legacy First, his organization, him and his brother. They are presenting a pro tryout for a tournament in Mexico. Okay, those tryouts are this Sunday, December the 18th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the beautiful Chase Fieldhouse in Wilmington, Delaware, the home of the Delaware Blue Coats. It's a $125 fee. You must be passport ready. And please, people, please, 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 serious inquiries only. All right? This is not a game, if you will. Pun very much intended at this point. This is not a game. This is something that means a lot to them, something that they worked hard for, so they want to have a great showing. So they are looking for the best. So if you decide that you want to make this trip down to Delaware and participate in this tryout, you better take your A++ game, because that's what they're looking for. And you must be passport ready. Folks, you will see all this information on my social media later today. And if you do not catch it on mine, you can go Facebook, Joseph P. Richmond. He has all the information there. Or you can catch him on Instagram at I am Joe Richmond. Tell him SportsRap sent you and give him your all when you go down there and try out. Don't go down there sugarcoating nothing. Don't go down there trying to get a handout or nothing. If you go, you better go, and like they say, you better come correct or don't come at all, is what we say. Moving into some scores from yesterday before we get into the NFL and our Eagles talk. We got some NBA scores from yesterday. The Suns 124 to 129, but 129-124 overtime loss to the Pelicans. The Sixers handled business at home against the Hornets 131-113. The Pistons fall to the Lakers at home 124-117. The Kings fall to the Knicks in the Garden 112-99. The Raptors fall to the Magic in Orlando 111-99. The Bulls just don't have enough. The Hawks get by them 123-122 in the ATL. And in Houston, the Rockets D-up Giannis very well yesterday. They take that game 97-92. In the NHL, the Avalanche and the Blues go into overtime. The Avalanche take that game 3-2. Also into overtime, the Blue Jackets and the Kings. The Blue Jackets come out victorious 6-5. The Kraken take that game over the Panthers 5-2. The Flyers fall to the Coyotes 5-4. The Capitals get by the Jets 5-2. And the Bruins get by the Golden Knights 3-1. Those are your scores for the NBA, NHL, and for yesterday. Before I close out, I will give you NBA games for today and NHL games for today. So while we are here, and we know what's going on, we know what's happening, we are ready for NFL scores. And, we went back to Thursday. We're going to talk about yesterday's games. Sunday, December the 11th, Week 14 in the NFL. Here are your scores from yesterday. New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo takes that game 20-12. Cincinnati gets by Cleveland 23-10. Dallas just has enough to get by Houston. In a rumble, in a fight, Dallas takes that game 27-23. Jacksonville gets up on Tennessee 36-22. Detroit beats Minnesota 34-23. Philadelphia shellacking wallops the New York Giants up in Jersey 48-22. Baltimore gets by Pittsburgh 16-14. Miami falls to the Chargers, and Sunday night football game was flexed 23-17. San Francisco beats up on Tampa Bay 35-7. Seattle falls to Carolina 30-24. And Denver falls to KC 34-28. So, talk a little bit about some games here before we get into our Eagles talk. And I'm going to start where a lot of people probably don't want to start, where a lot of people will, arguably come up with excuses for certain situations on either side of the fence. But nonetheless, we're going to start here. Tampa Bay at San Francisco. Tough game for Tampa Bay after an exciting win last week. Late in that game to come back and win that game last week. And I have to start first before I get into what are some of the things I want to say about this game. I have to give credit where credit is due, like I always do. And looking at the situation last week when Jimmy G got hurt, and then, of course, we got the update that the injury is not that serious or as serious as initially thought. But I was talking about or questioning the readiness of Brock Purdy. Okay, we all know from seeing this pregame show yesterday, the last pick in the draft, he's Mr. Irrelevant, as they called that person. I also said that I'm not sure how he's going to hold up. Played very well yesterday, so I have to give him credit for that. I have also said in the past, and I have to see a couple more games in to really, really give you, in my opinion, a decent or solid analysis. But I've also said in the past, and in concerning with Jimmy G being there and Kyle Shanahan, I've also said that their coaching is exquisite, if you will. I've always said that I'm still skeptical on Jimmy G. He's never really proven anything to me. But his coaching staff in San Francisco put him in the best opportunity to be successful, and it worked for him. So I see a lot of I see very similar things from yesterday in that coaching staff as far as with Brock Purdy. But again, like I said, it's only one game so far. And I'm not knocking saying, oh, it's just a one game, beginner's luck, none of that stuff. I'm not doing that because I never do that. I am just saying that, giving him his kudos for yesterday's game. And, I didn't watch the game fully, so I would have to actually sit and watch some clips or see it and make my own interpretation of what I felt, whether it was actually the athlete performing or it was a little bit of both, the athlete performing and the coaching staff making it easier for the particular athlete. So I'm pretty sure, like I said, with what I know about the coaching staff, I'm pretty sure it had a little bit to do with some of the coaching staff doing what they needed to do as far as playing the offense to the skill set of their particular quarterback right now. So, like I said, great game yesterday for him. I've got to see a couple more before I can give you my own solid interpretation or analysis on Brock Purdy and him moving forward and that team moving forward with him at the helm. Because we also know if he extends into the playoffs, we also know the playoffs, whole different season, whole different animal. And if it gets to that point, by then, teams will have what I feel like will be enough tape on him to scheme against him and do some things that can probably slow him down depending on where he is with all of this and when it all plays out. So we'll see what happens. But the other side of this story where I wanted to get to is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With that loss yesterday, they are now in a dogfight with the Carolina Panthers, surprisingly, for the division. If Carolina wins out, they could conceivably win the division. So it's looking kind of rough. It's looking kind of shaky for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This could very well be the last run that we see for Tom Brady. Because we obviously have seen throughout the season, and their record shows it, that he's not the Tom Brady that went to all those Super Bowls. That a lot of people always said, don't bet against Tom Brady. To all those people that said, look, he's the GOAT. Don't leave this much time. You got to do this. You got to do that. He's not looking like that same Tom Brady right now, currently this season. I'm just calling it like I see it. So, it very well could be his final run. Unless he decides to go and play somewhere else and try to do the same thing he did when he first went to Tampa Bay. But when you look at him and you see the body language and emotions, you kind of get the feeling like I've gotten that this is probably the last run. He needs to accept it. I feel like he needs to accept it because it just looked, like I said, the way the team is playing, the record shows it. This is not the same Tom Brady that we are or we have been used to seeing. So, with that being said, it's a possibility that this could be the end for Tom Brady. So we move into, let's go Minnesota, Detroit. Thank you to Detroit for beating Minnesota. Now Minnesota, I think, has now 3 losses. So that's a good thing, helping out the Eagles a little bit there. Cowboys got a win yesterday as well. We were hoping that Houston could knock them off, and they had it in their sights. I don't know if they just didn't hold on to it and complete the task. But when you look at that situation, if you look and you think if Dallas loses this game to a 110-1 team, it could pose a lot for them. They would have put them at 4 losses. I believe it would have put them at 4 or 5 losses. I'm not sure exactly where it would put them at, but somewhere. And it's basically to the point now where I don't believe that they can catch the Eagles. Like I said, they have to play the Eagles one more time. So the Eagles have 2 more division games. One more against the Giants, the final game of the regular season, and one against the Cowboys on Christmas Eve. They also have 2 other games in there coming up next. In Week 15, they got Chicago, and then they've got the New Orleans Saints. And then it's the Giants. So it's the Bears, the Cowboys, the Saints, and then I think it's the end of the season with the Giants. So, favorable schedule for the Eagles. Like I said, 2 division losses. They are right now 2-1, I believe, in the division. The Eagles are. Not 100% sure, but 2-1 in the division because they've got what? No, whatever it is. They're sitting pretty right now, nonetheless. Okay, I'm not gonna go into the division stuff with there because the Eagles are pretty much hands down going to win this division. Right now, sitting at 12-1, the best record in the NFL, first team to clinch a playoff spot with the win yesterday over the Giants. And yesterday's game for the Giants is a bigger loss than some people will own up to or some people may think. When you look back at the NFC East, arguably right now the toughest division in football this season so far, arguably. And pretty much not arguably, but I'm going to be polite and be politically correct and say arguably the toughest division in the NFL right now. And the Eagles are sitting at 12-1, so pretty much I think the closest team to them is the Cowboys, that have like 9 wins. So they still can't catch them, pretty much. And they still got one more game to play against the Eagles. And the Eagles already beat them, so the Eagles already have the tiebreaker over them. So it's going to be tough. The Giants lost on top of the tie in your own division last week is tough. And it's talked about where the Giants could have possibly made themselves a tougher run to get into the playoffs. So now they've got the Giants. They've got the Commanders again coming up Sunday, Week 15, I believe it is. They got the Commanders. Do they? Yes, they go to Washington to play the Commanders. So this game coming up now, because this is the team that you tied, so you're both coming into this game, you both have a tie. You lost yesterday, they were on a bye week. So you come into this game where both of you desperately need this game. Both of you desperately need this game. And I don't know what's going on with the Giants right now. Like I said, I think it was last week I said it, I mentioned it kind of slightly, where I talked about first-year coach, and I talked about how the Giants had came out looking very good in the beginning of the season. And then I went on to say, I said, I'm not 100% sure, but things just started at some point, I forget where it was in the point, I made mention to it last week, but things just started to look different, and they made a turn for the worse, if you will. And I mentioned some things that I felt like could be factors into this, to them turning bad. I meant Brian Dable, first year coach. I mentioned, like, could the pressure of his very early success have gotten to him and made him begin to overthink some things? Hence, we see a change in the way the team has been playing. Could it also have affected the players on that team? Coming off the season they came off last year, new coaching staff, new offense, new system, all of this stuff. The success that they had early in the season, could it have overwhelmed them? So we don't know. But again, coming up week 15, Washington Commanders at home against the New York Giants. That game is going to mean so much more than a lot of people thought when the schedule was put out. It's going to mean so much more to both of these teams. Like I said, the Giants, if they lose, they could arguably lose and play their way out of playoff contention. I think the Commanders might have a better chance because of that one win over the Eagles, which is also a division win. And that's the only blemish on the Eagles' record right now. So that's in their favor in the long or the grand scheme of things. That could possibly bode well for them in their favor. But we don't know. But again, like I said, this game coming up, James Murphy, my guy, thanks for tuning in. Going to mean so much more. And like I said, we felt like these next couple games for the Eagles, once we get to the Saints game, we may not need that game. We may not want that game at all because it may not mean anything to us as far as us coming in, because we are right now at 12-1. We're already in the playoffs. So conceivably, NFC East, everything will come through Philadelphia. The Eagles look like they will end up with the bye. Like I said, the Minnesota Vikings lost again, so they now have 3 losses, and they were like the second best record to the Eagles with the 10 wins, and now they have the 3 losses. So the Eagles are sitting very pretty. And one of the things I like about this team is they don't seem to look past teams. They stay in the moment and they look at the team that's right in front of them, the team that they're playing at the present moment or getting ready to play at the present moment. And it is very, very exciting. Like I said, they, again, and I keep saying it, they are showing you, I'm going to take the beginning out now, but they are showing you now that they are a team that is a really good team, a team that can beat you in multiple ways, a team that has a solid defense that can definitely keep them in a game, that can definitely hold on to leads for the offense. And the offense is showing you how they can bring you in. Good morning, Auntie, Shaw's sister. Thanks for tuning in. They also have shown you how they can manage games. They can beat you in, like I said, numerous ways. In the passing game, in the running game. Just real quick, speaking of that, we go through some stats. They dominated yesterday from beginning to end. Time of possession, I didn't jot that down, but they dominated the time of possession throughout that game. They cleaned up some things from prior week as far as penalties. The Eagles didn't give them any first downs on penalties, so there were no major penalties for them. Jerome Bowie, my guy, thanks for tuning in. And final score 48-22, Eagles. The stats, we will go team stats first real quick since we're talking about the way the Eagles are playing and how they have clinched the division pretty much. Well, they didn't say that yet, but they have clinched the playoff spot, and more than likely they will clinch the division. First downs, 27 first downs to the Giants, 18. Yes, James Murphy. Hurts is very, very good right now, especially. Very good. Passing first downs, the Eagles had 10. The Giants had 11. 15 rushing first downs for the Eagles, 7 for the Giants. First downs by penalties, 2 for the Eagles, 0 for the Giants. Third down conversions, 6 of 11 for Philadelphia, 4 of 13 for the Giants. Total yards, 437 for the Eagles, 304 for the Giants. So not too bad for the Giants. 217 passing for the Eagles, but again, the dominant rushing attack, 253 rushing. For the Giants, 216 passing, 123 rushing. Turnovers, 1 fumble lost for the Giants, no turnovers for the Eagles. You think about what James Murphy just chimed in and said Hurts is good. He's, again, really good. The Eagles, after that Indianapolis game, like I said, they focused on some things that they saw, some flaws, some chinks in the armor, and they fixed them. And they've been very, very stout against the run the last couple weeks. They handled Derrick Henry, who people thought would be an issue for them. And then this week they pretty much handled and took him out of the game, Saquon Barkley, for the New York Giants, who usually has really good games against the Eagles. So they focused in, they locked in, and they paid attention to detail. I think they had like 6 or 7 sacks yesterday. So again, the defense, like I said, is a defense that's stout. And it begins with that defensive line, and that rotation is heavy. And I don't mean just their size and everything. I mean heavy as in good, real good. Looking at stats individually yesterday, Hurts, like James Murphy said, is good. MVP status right now, MVP conversation, if you will, right now, no question, no doubt. 21 to 31, 217 yards, which was 7 yards average. No interceptions, 2 TDs yesterday. Right now, he sits at, I think, 20 touchdowns on the season and 2 interceptions, which is phenomenal. Versus Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, 18 to 27 for 169 yards, 6.3 yard average, no interceptions, and 1 touchdown. The rushing attack for the Eagles, Miles Sanders, 17 attempts for 144 yards, 8.5 yards average, 2 touchdowns. His long was 40. Miles Sanders eclipsed 1,000-yard rushing for the season. He also has more touchdowns this year than he had in the past or last season. Jalen Hurts also added into that rushing attack, not as much as he has the week before, but formidable. 7 attempts for 77 yards, 11 yards a carry, 1 rushing TD. His long was 24 yards. Boston Scott, along with that 60-something yard kickoff return, had 6 attempts for 33 yards, a 5.5 yard average, 1 touchdown, and his long was 11 yards. Receiving, the 2 Batmans. Devontae Smith, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 64 yards, 12.8 yards an average, 1 touchdown, and his long was 41. A.J. Brown, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 70 yards, 17.5 yard average, 1 touchdown, also 33 yards was his long. And Quez Watkins, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 19 yards, 4.8 average, no touchdown. His long was 9 yards. So again, folks, the Eagles right now have, I think, finally convinced people that they are a team to reckon with. It's always been weird how throughout the season so far and how good the Eagles have been playing. Of course, they struggled in a couple games that you felt like that they should have just won. But we know the NFL any given Sunday. But what the Eagles have done was as soon as something happened, like I said, when there's a chink in that armor, it's immediately addressed and immediately, so far this season, fixed and corrected. Not just addressed, it's addressed and corrected. Whether it's changing schemes, doing other things with different players, or bringing in free agents and whatnot. And some of the things, this is what they've done. So, again, we look at like we said, the Eagles' schedule, remaining schedule. They've got Chicago coming up. Uh, then they've got Dallas, then the Saints, and then there is the final game of the regular season against the New York Giants once again. And arguably, those last two games, I mean, arguably, when you think about it, conceivably, that Dallas Cowboys game come Christmas Eve may not mean much either. If they win Sunday, they'll be 13-1. That could pretty much clinch them the division, even though they still have 2 division games left, but they still have the one up on both of the division teams that they have to play. They got one up on the Cowboys and they got one up on the Giants. So, conceivably, if it goes the Eagles' way, that Dallas Cowboys game could mean little or nothing. Definitely, we get to the Saints game. Yeah, Murph, you always worry about that. It is just what it is with Dallas, you know. But I think what the Eagles are doing right now is the way they're playing and the way they focus on each team at a time. I don't think there's too much to worry. Like I said, we know how it plays out as far as the division game and where it's set at. But where the Eagles are right now, I think they'll go in confident enough to go in and win that game. And I think, again, if things hold up the way they are, it may not mean as much as people expected. Again, going in. Theron, thanks for tuning in. Frank, thanks for tuning in. So, again, we look at, like I said, Chicago, they should win that game. Then you got the Cowboys, and like I said, I feel like if they stick to what they've been doing, being able to run the ball and pass the ball, and the way the defense has been playing, I think they can get by the Cowboys again. It probably won't be to the magnitude that they won the first time, but I think they can get by the Cowboys again. Then that means that Saint game may not mean anything at all. And then that final game against the Giants may not mean anything at all. The only catch-22 with that Saints game is it could arguably help or hurt somewhat in the draft positioning, where the Eagles could end up like having the best record in the NFL going into the playoffs and then possibly have a top 5 draft pick in the upcoming draft because of the wheeling and dealing that Howie Roseman did in the offseason and other deals like that was with the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. So, again, the Eagles are, like we said, they are sitting pretty. Sitting pretty, folks. It's a beautiful thing to watch right now when you look at the Eagles play. Also, when you look at Jalen Hurts' play, his command of the offense, his command of the team, and you look at the camaraderie of these guys where it looks like these guys are always pretty much on the same page. And we know things happen. Every now and then you get some miscues or whatever, but when you look at the grand scheme of this entire situation, these guys are focused, they're in tune. The energy as far as the players and the coaching staff, like you saw Nick Sirianni excited on that touchdown pass to Devontae Smith, which was a beautiful, perfectly thrown ball by Jalen Hurts. And getting to that, a lot of the throws that he made yesterday, a lot of throws that he's been making all season have been pretty much on the money. There was a lot of chatter coming into the season of how would he develop? Can he throw the long ball? Can he do this? Can he do that? His quarterback intelligence, you say quarterback IQ, has improved, and you've been seeing that all season. His play, his decision making has improved, and so far so good. It's been the right decisions been made just about every time. His throwing has gotten a lot better. His second full season as the starter, he's improved. And like I said last week when they talked about comparisons with him and Carson Wentz, where they were at this particular point with the Eagles, they've set Jalen Hurts above that because he is above that. He's proved it. And like I said, he's worked on his game. So he got the knowledge. I mean, he was determined to get better. And he made himself better. And he's now in MVP conversation, like top of the list in the MVP conversation in the NFL. But when you look at, again, his command of the team, his leadership out there on the field, his body language and attitude when he comes off the field. Like the couple times they had to punt yesterday and some plays didn't go, it's like, okay, we move on to the next play. Like, all right, this was supposed to happen, whatever. We'll talk about it when we get to the sideline. But for right now, let's get to the next play. Like, forget it. It's over with. And then when he gets to the bench, it's like, we good. We here. Got confidence in the defense on the field right now. We get the ball back. We gonna fix what we didn't have corrected previous drive, and we'll be successful. And so far, it's been working very, very well for the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, first team in the NFL this year to clinch a playoff spot, sitting 12-1, best record in the NFL, best record in the division. So, for all intent purposes, NFC playoffs will run through Philadelphia. So, it looks like if you get to the championship, we get to the championship, whoever it is, you got to come to South Philly. You got to come play in the cold. You got to come play in front of this crowd. It's be a tough win if you can steal a win and get out of here. But again, like I said, I'm very confident in where the Eagles are right now. I'm very confident in the mentality of the team, the approach to their preparation with this team, the energy level of the coaching staff, the approach of the coaching staff, the ever-growing success and improvement of Jalen Hurts. We'll see. It feels like a great year. Anything can happen, but it definitely feels like a great year. So, go Eagles. Going to take my first break right now. When I come back, we're going to talk some Sixers. Again, record-setting night for Joel Embiid, as well as some other records set like we talked about real quick for the Eagles. So come on back. We're going to talk some Sixers, and then we're going to talk a little bit of Brittany Griner and her release. And like I said, folks, you can give me some comments. Let me know what you think. Ask me some questions. Yeah, Murph, that's crazy. James Murphy just asked, how about Penn taking the Big Five outright since 2010? Yeah, it's tough, Got to protect their home court. So that's what they do. Folks, you have been tuned in to SportsRap right here on Heat 100 Radio. Facebook Live, the group page, SportsRap Podcast, LLC. Going to take a quick break, like I said. And when I come back, we will continue this dialogue. Like I said, we're going to talk some Sixers. We're going to talk some Brittany Griner. And we'll see you all on the other side. Stay tuned. Come on back with us.